I used to wear this hat as a soldier. It used to have great significance to me. I no longer want to keep hold of this symbol of militarism.
You know, blown up by a 500-pound bomb, homemade bomb. Being in all the public order, you know, seeing beer kegs getting thrown at you and all that.
He's like, don't give them your time, British bastard.
Kenny, how are you, brother?
Top man.
Mate, it's so great to have you on the show. Amongst other things, we're going to talk about meeting the lRA, the Irish Republican Army.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something a lot of veterans can lay a claim to. Before we go there, I just want to say a massive thank you for all your support of our channel. You've been an absolute bloody diamond. You always contribute positive comments. You're clearly a kind, enlightened person. Kenny, just tell us, like, why did you join the military, and who did you join, and what, and how did it develop?
A bit like everyone else, really. It's Army cadets. I grew up in the Isle of Man, so a very small community. Everyone knows everyone. And the only way to get off the rock really was to, you know, join the forces, because everyone else was joining the forces at that time. So Army cadets was the thing that got me into it. And all my mates joining up around the same time, 1987, 88. So the big thing for me, I should have joined the Royal Navy, to be honest, because my dad was a submariner. So I did have my sights set on being a submariner like my dad, but for some reason, I mean, the Army cadets just took on me. Thought, oh yeah, my mates are going in, you know. 18-year-old, barely 18, got off the island for the first time on my own, went to Sutton Coldfield, did me fitness and what have you. They had to come to the Isle of Man to sign you up. And then I got me joint instructions to go to York at Strensall. Did me 16 weeks there. And then went to battalion straight away, Northern Ireland training, straight out to South Armagh, in which I did all the OPs, helicopters in and out of Besbrook Mill, which is all gone, by the way. I mean, I can explain that. It's all gone now, a lot. You wouldn't even recognise the place. It's just a mill now. But yeah, I seen a 200-pounder go off there when I was 18. But 19th birthday it was, my 19th birthday. I was in South Armagh. Happy birthday, 200-pound bomb. Went off down the valley.
Kenny, you haven't told us who did you join, mate?
Oh, King's Own Royal Border Regiment. I was originally King's Regiment. But I got rebadged while I was in training because I got coerced to go in the Cumbrian Regiment, you know. I went, all right. Yeah, I did the 6 month, and then obviously after the 6 months, South Armagh, I did the Belize, Kenya. I went to Malaysia. I went all over the world doing exercise in Canada, armoured mech and stuff. It was good. It was all right. And then, you know, halfway, it's sort of like the middle of my career there. It was a very long tour, 3 years in Derry, in which, you know, I'd seen a lot of stuff in that time. That's a long time to be in conflict, you know. We were permanently based there, and I was out all the time, you know. So I was, you know, blown up by a 500-pound bomb, homemade bomb, pipe bombed, being in all the public order, you know, seeing beer kegs getting thrown at you and all that, and, you know, stagging on and what have you. And when you look back, you think, freaking hell, you know, that was a long time out of your life to be doing something like that. And I won't go on about the post-traumatic stress and whatever. That's a different story, you know. That's a different subject that you can go into. But yeah, years later, it does affect you. It does affect you. But you don't realise, because back then, like you, when we joined in the late 80s, there was nothing, no support, nothing like that. It was just get on with it, you know what I mean? You're funny, you know. Here's a radio, get on with it. Here's that, Yahoo, you know. And the bullying was quite rife back then. I'm not going to say it wasn't. It was. The bullying was horrendous. They just got on with it. I mean, did my time. I did I did 12 years and went back in for another 6 down at actually deep cut. Yeah. I know all about the deep cut thing. I did an article on that when I was there, and when I got involved with Veterans for Peace, I did an article on that. Exactly. I found out exactly what was going on there, and I did an article for the families. And then I had like an objection to it, because I was going to do me 22, but I thought they turned around to me and said, right, we want you to train them up on the snatch vehicles. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. And they said, why not? So I was the first one to get blown up in one of them. Yeah, the crap. They come out with all this fancy, we throw a 6-foot picket down, it bounces off the bonnet, yeehaw, it won't roll, it won't this, that, and the other. It was absolute crap. And that's why they got the name mobile coffins when they started to go to Iraq and Afghanistan in it. Now I was like, there's no way I'm teaching anyone to do top cover and stuff on them. They're just absolute death traps. And I thought, you know what? I've got my kids, and I've got a house and that. And I thought, sod it. You know what I mean? I've had it. You know, I'm out. I mean, I could have done me 22, but I thought, no, fuck it. My family's first. And that's always been number one, my kids. You know, no matter what job you do in life, you know, your number one priority is your kids. Yeah. And I just thought, yeah, sod it. I'm out. So I just left it. And then years went by, and you go to the cenotaph with your medals. You put your medals on your kids, you know, and let them stand there. And over the years, you've seen it getting, you know, maybe about 50, 60 people at our cenotaph would be there, and the band and what have you. And over the years, it got big. After Iraq and Afghanistan kicked in, you start to see the crowd getting bigger and bigger and bigger, do you know, because of the amount of lives lost in that conflict. And I had a moment when I was into, like, when you were talking about Richard Hall, about 2009, I started watching Richard on Sky, and then he went on to his own channel. And I started to dig deep a bit into what he was saying. It was like, watch 7/7 Ripple Effect. And I watched that and I went, right. And then something else and something else. And you put the pieces together and you were like, what the hell's going on here? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Why? And you start to see the bigger picture. And it takes a lot of research to get into it. You can't just say to someone, yeah, right, this, and they'll go, well, straight in one ear out the other. You know, you've really got to dig deep and wake up to it, you know. But yeah, 2013, I think it was, I'd had enough, you know. And then it was at the Remembrance Parade where I just threw my medals at the cenotaph in front of everyone and just said, look, peace, not war. Stop glorifying war. That's exactly what you're doing. You're glorifying war. And it was in the article on the Northern Echo, one man and his dog, because I took my little dog there. So I had my dog on the lead. And they ushered me to one side. And yeah, they took me to the cells for the night, which was, not bothered. You know what I mean? I had to do it. It was one of them moments where you had to just do it, which inspired Ben Griffin and the guys to do that at Downing Street, and another one when they started bombing Syria. They did the same thing, and that's all on YouTube. That, so I inspired Ben to, yeah, do it, man, do it. You know, yeah, that was 2013. I then joined Veterans for Peace with Ben Griffin, and it was in the early days that when it just started. There was only about 20, 30 of us nationwide, you know, and we went down to London, and it kicked off with doing an annual convention every year, and then doing the white poppy wreath, Never Again, with a banner and what have you at the cenotaph. I've got to meet like Stu Griffith, Joe, who was on your show, Spike, the poet, all these wonderful people like Gus Hales and absolute legends. Do you know, when you meet some people that are on the same wavelength, it's great. You know what I mean? And we started doing things, you know, giving lectures, going here and there and telling your story, really. You know what I mean? Ben was very into going to the schools at the time and sitting down with kids and telling the reality of the warfare and stuff like that. And I got to go to a couple of schools locally and do a few things, but it got to a stage where I just wasn't getting the support. You know, there wasn't anyone in my area really that could support. You know, if you're on your own, it's very difficult. You know, it's, you know, you're just like, hello, you know, I'm on my own. I'm going to do this. And I thought, oh God, no. So I was more like step back and just talk to people and what have you, you know what I mean? And then lo and behold, 2014, I did a comment on Northern Ireland on our website, and we got a reply of a girl, Fiona Gallagher, replied and said, "Oh, I'm glad to hear this, that, and the other. It's so sad and blah blah blah." And I was like, right, I'll just message her back. But she actually got in touch with the guys who live in Northern Ireland, like Lee and who's the other guy, Kieran, who live over there, and they were very involved and stuff. And it just sort of like filtered in. And somehow Ben rang me up and said, "Look, Kenny, do you want to go to Northern Ireland on a different kind of tour? We've got this all jacked up, like, you know, we're going to meet this and we're going to do this and that and the other." And I said, yeah. And then it was like, when you think about it, it was like, hello, Ben. It was like, I don't want to go, mate. I don't want to go. Do you know what I mean? I was there a long time, mate. And I don't want to do this, you know? And he was like, "No, mate, they want to meet you. They want to meet you. You're perfectly safe. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right." And Gus had that moment as well. Gus Hales, he had the same feeling. That too much had got out. I was like, "Oh, mate, it's so hard to do that, you know." So we got coerced into doing it. He got the plane tickets jacked up and what have you. And it was like 90 mile an hour. Do you know? It was 4 days, and it's all on YouTube. Different kind of tour with Veterans for Peace. And the minute we got off the aircraft, we were met by Shauna Bretham, I think he is. He's the Republican ex-prisoner support group. And he sat down with a cup of tea in Belfast Airport and said, "Look, guys, you're completely safe. Everyone wants to meet you. And you got nothing to worry about. All right, boys." And we were like, "Yeah, okay, cool. Let's go." And it was straight to Derry. I mean, literally get in a car, boom, straight to Derry. And on the video on a different kind of tour, you can see my eyes are like, "Yeah, bloody hell," you know, like freaking hell. I'm sat down with, you know, the victims of Bloody Sunday, and I'm going around the museum with the guy who actually says, "Look, we're not political or anything here. We're about the community. This is what the community went through," and showed us where the rounds went off on the bog side, and it was all 90 mile an hour. You know, I was in awe. How could I be here? I'm like, it was 20 odd years since I was there, and I'm like stood here, like having a chat with them. You know, I'm like, what the hell's going on? It was surreal. We sat down. I had a brief moment where I was, you know, I talked about throwing my medals back and what have you on the video, but and I was quite emotional doing what I did. You know, it was very emotional for me. Went down to Belfast on you can see on the video we meet a lot of ex-prisoners, former IRA. They explain it a lot better on the video rather than me going into it, you know. And they were all about, it's all about the community, and it was a community in conflict and how they reacted to that, you know. So they said their aim was basically to get the British Army out. You know, that's what they all said, is to get them out. We're sick of this. They're in our community. They're doing this, they're doing that, and we're not having it, you know. And that was one of the reasons why they, at a very young age, when they say they were 16, 17 when they joined up, you know what I mean, when they joined the Pyra and what have you. And their stories on YouTube, you know, when you listen to them, it's like, bloody hell, you know. Yeah, I get it. And when you go on the tour down the wall with that guy Danny, and he explains about the wall in Belfast, and he's got the museum and stuff as well, where they show you the cells from the H block and how they used to live in the H block and what they used to get up to, and you know, flags out the window to communicate with the families and stuff. And yeah, that's on YouTube. And then straight after in Belfast, we went with the Lord Mayor. We went down to see the shooting. Do you remember the shooting with the not long after the SAS killed the Pyra members in Gibraltar, and you had the funeral, and they actually said, they were giving us running commentary, and actually said the police pulled back. You know, they actually pulled back to let them get on with it, because it was so touchy feely at that time. The tension was through the roof, and all of a sudden it was that guy Stone, wasn't it, with a pistol and the grenade.
Michael. Yeah.
And they give you a walkthrough talk through. He gave us a walkthrough talk through on the actual. You can still see them, you know. And he told you where they got them, and when you look at the video, you're like, oh right, so they got him at the bottom there. The police got him because they were so far out, you know, standing back and let them do their thing. You know what I mean? But that was fascinating. It was like they were showing us the memorials and stuff like that, and then we were on the Falls Road with some more community members that had wrote a lot of books and stuff. Yeah, that was interesting. So we're actually we went to the community centre on there, Falls Road, you know, and we're sat there and we're just having a chat with these people. They wanted to meet us, and we just explained what it was like from our side. You know, we were young lads. We joined up. We didn't know what was going on. We thought they were the bad men, you know, the boogeyman and all that. You know, they're terrible. These people, they're doing this, they're doing that, and you didn't understand why they were doing it or what was driving them or anything. You didn't know anything about politics or anything at that age, you know. And on the video, you can actually see Ben explaining, like he does several times. You can see the women in the background there, that they just get a reaction, you know, as if instantly they're back there. When Ben starts talking about it, you can see them on the table. They go, whoa. You can see the woman, you know, she's having an instant flashback to what it was like back then. And they try and mix with the communities now, so that there's no trouble anymore. There's nothing there to really go at. So between, you know, the Red Hand Gang and the Pyramid, they all come together now. There's very little violence that goes on. Maybe on the marches, a little bit will happen, you know, during summer. But it was nice to see, you know, nice to listen to them actually take it on board, you know. On the way down to Belfast University, we actually got in a car with a guy, and Lee turned around to me and said, "Do you know who this is?" I went, "No." And he said, "He's one of the H Block guys that got out the H Block and out of there." So on the way to the university, I said, "Well, what happened like?" And he said, "Well, our main concern was just to get out. Do you know, we weren't there to hurt the guards or anything. We were just there to just get out. So we made a plan," he said, "and we took hostages and whatever, and we got out. And then it was, they didn't know what to do. Once they were out, they were like, what do we do now?" You know what I mean? And they just legged it. And he wound up in the States for a couple of years. And then he got found, and then he went to Boston. He got locked up in Boston, and he turned around to me, and I said, "Well, what was that like then?" Because that's like proper. They're well into that, you know what I mean? The Boston. And he turned around and he said, "Well, put it this way, I was in a cell with the Don." And I was like, "Whoa." And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "I didn't do much work." He said, "I bump at the floors now and then." And he got this, the governor at the time shouted over to him and said, "In my office." And he said, "What for?" He said, "In my office now, I hate you." He says, "Why?" He says, "Look out that window." And he looked out the window, and they'd named a street after him. And I was look at this guy in the car going, "Eh? They named the street after you? Flippin' heck." And then that was on the way to see Pat McGee. So Pat McGee, if anyone doesn't know, is the Brighton bomber. And him and Joe Berry was the daughter of one of the Conservative members that got killed in the Brighton bomb attack. And they come together, and they go all over the place talking about the conflict and what it was like from his side of the, you know, he just seen the British Army, the government as the enemy, you know, and they explain, they come together, and she realizes why he did that, you know, and she can come to some sort of peace, you know, with that, and they explain it all. And when we got to the Belfast, we had like a mediator, and then Pat, and I was sat there, and they were just firing questions at him, and he was answering, obviously. And at the end of it, he says, "Right, guys," he says, "come down to the pub tonight and have a drink with us." And we says, "Yeah, no problem, Pat." So we went down, went into a pub, and it was an underground pub, all the Irish music and the tricklers and whatever. And we looked over, and this little white man sat in the corner, and we're all right, Pat, yeah. Yeah, and we've got a Guinness, walks over, and there was no seats. And he just turned around and said, "Hey, boys, there's the boys I've been talking about. Give them a seat." And they all got up, sat down, welcomed us, and we just had a piss up. You know what I mean? It was, you have to speak to the Brighton bomber. Bloody hell. You know what I mean? And when you were meeting people, it was like, what the hell are we doing here? You know, it was 90 mile an hour. So I'm saying it was so fast in that 4 days. We couldn't video at Cross McGlen. Cross McGlen, we went down, and there's a community hall down there, and it's lovely, and it really is nice. And they have like a little museum of what it was like in South Armagh and what they got up to, and they had all the pictures of the Romeo Towers, the golf towers, the bases, and so they had lots of pictures. And they do tours where they actually walk up onto the hills and they show you where the towers were and what have you, you know, and what it was like to be spied on basically for all that time. And a guy called Danny, he was the guy. I mean, if a handshake could kill you, I mean, that when you met them, it was like, oh, it's like, what, you know, who are these boys coming here? How'd you do? And we were like sitting down. I'm looking around, you know, looking for a window or something, thinking, oh my God, we're going to get fucking taken away or something here. You know what I mean? What's going on here? And once Ben got up and started talking, they realised why we were there. You know what I mean? Who we were. We weren't gobshites. We weren't, you know, we're nice guys. We're here to discuss whatever, you know, anything you want, you know. And by about half an hour into it, you're like that. It's like you said, you know, you can meet anyone in the world, don't you? You say you can meet a Russian, and you think the Russians are the bogeyman, but you know, give it 10 minutes and you're having a beer and you're cracking on. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what it was like. It was kind of nervous, but once you got to know everyone, it was like, you know, I'm sat next door in a minibus Sherpa, and we went over the border to see some memorials. And I was sat next to the blanket man, the guy that was in the cell next door to Bobby Sands, isn't it? Yeah. Next door on the hunger strike. And on the YouTube, you see another guy who's giving a talk, and he was a blanket man, and he was given about 12 hours to live. He did it all the way, you know. And I was sat next to this old boy, and I didn't have a clue who he was. And he says, "Oh, I was there, you know, I was there. What was it like?" And they go into it, you know, what it was like and why they did it. And I was like, freaking hell, I'm sat next to a blanket man. And then
Ken,
this guy, you know?
Can you just explain to our friends at home what the hunger strikes was about, so they know what we're talking about?
Oh yeah, the blanket men. They wouldn't wear a uniform, a prison uniform, because they classed themselves as political prisoners. So they went on strike. They wore blankets, and eventually they were trying to push, you know, get Sinn Féin in part and get a voice in Parliament and stuff. So they went on hunger strike, and it was called a dirty protest. So they smeared the crap all over the cells and what have you. And they were telling us they were doing like code through the yelled central heating and stuff, and because when they were on the process, they were like they could hear each other. So one person would sing a song or do a poem or something like that. So they kept themselves going by doing that. I mean, it must have been hellish living in your own, you know what I mean? With just a blanket. I mean, they did it like, but there's plenty of stuff on it on YouTube and stuff. But to sit down with someone and hear his side, it was like, you know what I mean? It was like, wow. And then there was another guy that said that he shot the chopper down. Remember back in our day, they had the Wessex, didn't they? The Wessex, when you used to get flying around in the Wessex helicopter, and one of them got shot down. And they denied it. The British Army denied it. They said, "Oh no, didn't get shot down. I said, "Bloody well did," because I've seen he showed us the video of them all running away. You know, when they did it with the machine guns and what have you. And he showed the tail fin. They actually got the tail fin in the museum. You know what I mean? So absolute rubbish. They did shoot it down, you know, and because the Chinook had to go and recover it and remember it. And yeah, they took us around. Where did they go? They were on about. Do you know when they used to then you used to get the oxyacetylene box, pack them with explosives and shoot them off, and it was a mortar attack, wasn't it? Yeah, and they used to shoot them off and what have you. And we were just over the border, and I said to this guy, who was I'll get onto who he was like. It was basically. Do you remember the signs that said "sniper at work"? Remember that? And he had the 50 cal sniper that was all in South Armagh at the time. And
that was it called the Garant, that rifle, that rifle, the Garant 50?
Yeah, the Fox. the Fox, I think he was called. It was like he was like brigade commander, and he was telling us. I said, "Well, how did you know how far it went? You know?" And he said, "We didn't." I said, "Well, how did you Did you test it?" He says, "Nah, we just lined them up, looked at it, and just hit it, or had a device where just whoosh, just aim it at it." I thought, Jesus Christ, I didn't know. I thought you went down the south of the border and you knew exactly roughly where it would land. He says, "Nah, we just turn up, boom, and just hit it." I was like, "Flipping heck!" I was like, "Holy crap!" You know. I was like, "Okay," and then
my Oppo Jock, who was behind me when we got hit in Belfast, and he got hit 3 times, right, and lived, I should say.
mm-hmm.
He done a tour in the south, Kenny, and he said you'd see the signposts on the road, and they had these fucking great holes through them, where the sniper was getting his aiming. Do you want to know a credible thing? You know, they talk about, what is it, 3 degrees of separation or something. I was on patrol on the New Lodge Road in Belfast, and a bunch of kids come up, Catholic kids, like, "Hey, mister, can we look through your sight?" He used to love looking through the SUSAT sight, you know. Right, Friends at home, it's your telescopic sight, right? So all these kids are looking through my SUSAT sight, except one. And he stood off to the side. And he was so upset at what his mates were doing. He's like, "Don't give them your time, British bastards. Fucking leave them alone." I turned to him and I said, "Mate, come on, what's up?" He said, "You put my daddy away." Well, I didn't. I ain't put no. I ain't put no one away. But
yeah. You see
so I said, "Who's your daddy?" He went, "The Brighton bomber."
Surreal, isn't it?
Ain't that mad?
Yeah.
You know,
son and I met him. Yeah.
That must have been Pat's son.
Yeah. Yeah.
He must be, you know, an old fella now, like me.
Yeah, but I goes, yeah.
Oh, I'd love to chat to him. I would just love to chat to him.
Well, I tell you what, we had we went across McGlen and actually went back down to Besbrook as well. It's all gone. I mean, you wouldn't even know it was military down there now. It's just gone. It's just a field, and you were like, "God, where's the tarmac gone, and where's the heli sanger and all it all gone?" You know, across McGlen, you've got literally the size of your kitchen of a helipad that used to be there, and that was one of the busiest heliports in the world at the time. That was in and out, in and out. But we weren't allowed to film down there. Obviously, I was a bit dodgy. But we had a tour around Cross McGlen, and he was actually showing you where he fired and the big splat marks in the inside the pub and what have you, and from behind gravestones and stuff like that. And it was just telling you, you know, there was my firing point. There's where I did this, and you're like, freaking hell. And because of the group we were in, we were stood outside this RUC station, and all the cameras just went whoosh like that. And I thought, "Hey up!" And Stewie was taking some pictures. Stu Griff was taking some pictures and what have you. And we said, "I wonder if they come out." And we all started laughing. We said, "As soon as them cameras have gone on us and they've seen who stood outside the station, they'll just go, 'What's going on here?'" Do you know what I mean? What the hell's going on? So we walked through Gloucester and we did that, and there was Les. And he's I wouldn't say he's a hippie. He's very, very nice guy, former Royal Marine from the 70s, you know. And he remembers vividly having a go, getting a lot of crap off a farmer. And he was by this pub, and this farmer was having a right go at him for like messing his fences up and what have you. And he just stood there and he was dead cool, he said. And the landlord came out, was a woman, and she says, I'm very surprised at how cool you were. And he turned around and he says, well, we are doing it, aren't we? Do you know what I mean? We are trampling on his fields and knocking his fence down. Of course he's going to be angry, and he always remembers that. And fast forward, bloody hell, he was there in the 70s, you know, and it's 2014, and we're stood there, and he's like, "I've got to go to this pub." And one of the ex-prisoner guys says, it's still there, it's down there. So Stewie and myself and Les went down. And Les just stood there by the front of the pub and he's looking in and that, you know, I said, oh, yes, hasn't changed and all this, yeah. And this bloke walks out and opens the door. And Les turned around and said, hi, I'm Les. And as soon as he heard the accent, it was like, you're British. And he turned around and said, yeah, well, I'm a former Royal Marine and we're with them guys there doing this, that, and the other. And he looked around and went, are you really? Yeah. And he got all the lads out the pub and went, they're with them. Look, all these guys and all. And Stewie stood there with his camera going, I thought that was going to go the wrong way. Do you know what I mean? I thought that was going to go pear-shaped. But as soon as they seen who we were with, it was like, boom. It was like, you're doing that? Holy crap. And I said, what we did in that 4 days was something that's never been done before, you know? And I was saying to Ben, why haven't the TV took an interest in this? And it was Shauna, or Shana, whatever his name is, the guy on the video. He turned around to us and said, they won't touch it, Kenny. They won't touch it. Because they just won't. They won't do it. You know, something like that, they won't do it.
Can I just come in here, Kenny, and say, just to highlight, you know, your bravery of going over there, basically. When I served, we did our tour and we come home, right? We never, ever went out to barracks because that would have been a death sentence, right?
Yeah.
We were in North Belfast, place called Gerwood Park for anyone that's watching. I had a crazy oppo. Dave, bless him, he committed suicide not long after that tour. He was that mental. He started knocking, if that's the right expression, knocking off a naffy bird. Right. So one of the girls in the pub, inside the camp, friends, he'd started seeing. And he was that mental. He climbed in the boot of her car. He was a corporal, so he had a radio. And off he went. Yeah, obviously she was Protestant because that's just the way things. You know, if she was a Catholic, rather, she would have been suffered the consequences. He went back to her place for a night out, right? Still to this day, I think, fuck me, that took balls or stupidity. Right? There's no way I would have ever walked out that camp gate on my own without a weapon. No way.
We used to do.
I know that. Sorry, Kenny. I know that everybody is watching that gate. I know that the Irish Republican Army have got their spotters out, dickers as we called, and they know every movement. My tour was literally right after the signalers, when the signalers were executed, right? Fucking vicious, horrible. Now, here's the thing. After the tour, some of our lads had to go back for court cases. And I'm there thinking, oh, what? Do you just like rock up at the airport? You got a police entourage that's going to protect you. And no, you rocked up at that fucking airport. You had to get on a bus and go to the court. all on your unbelievable, mate. Unbelievable.
Yeah, still while the troubles were on, yeah.
Unbelievable. When I went back to Hong Kong after 15 years of having been there, and I anyone that's familiar with my story, I was a doorman, like a nightclub doorman for the Hong Kong Triads. Then I wrote my memoir, Eat and Smoke, about not just that experience, but about my whole experience. When I went back to Hong Kong after 15 years, I stood in that street in Wan Chai, which is the red light district, gangland, clubland district in Hong Kong. And I'm looking at that club sign where I used to stand beneath it all those nights as a doorman. And I'm like, fuck, 15 years, you know. And I won't even say what protection that I just believe in looking after yourself, put it that way. I thought, right, do it. And I walked to the club. I went down the stairs where I stood so many times. I'm expecting that all my old work crew, the Triads, are all still there, and they're going to go, you wrote a book. The guy on the door, all right, mate. He went, in you go.
Yeah.
I went down them stairs, mate, and my heart is beating. I'm thinking, am I going to have to start fighting for my life soon? I got in the club. I started to calm down a bit because I realized there's nobody there that even though I subsequently found out the Triad big brother who employed me, who was my boss, right? Also known as the most evil man in One Chai. He was still a manager of a Triad run club across the road. Right? I didn't know that. But I went in that club. There was nobody there. I walked around. I got my camera out. I took photos of where I used to be. And I even dared to have a drink at the bar. But all that time, mate, I'm thinking of them signalers, you know? Why am I saying this? I'm saying it, Kenny, because Jesus Christ, it's a brave old thing to do what you guys did. And I'm not suggesting that in any way you were in danger from the Irish Republican Army.
No, we were perfectly safe, but it was so surreal, you know? I mean, I remember when they were going towards the Free Derry bit, and I couldn't help it. I thought, sod it, I'm going to the Bogside Inn. So I walked straight in the Bogside Inn and just had a mooch around. And then I thought, but they're going down the community centre, because I'd been there so long in my previous time. I knew where they were going, you know what I mean? So I just had a little mooch, like, didn't have a drink. I just had a little nosy around, because you've been past it that many times and seen this Bogside Inn, you know? I just had to go in. And then you just got there. It was kind of like a Western, you know, when you open the door, it was like, ding, 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 ding. What's going on here then? All right. Just walk in. It was kind of that moment. I was like, hello. All right. See you later. And then we just carried on with what we were doing. But, oh, God, yeah. Yeah, you had some moments in that where it was like, what the hell is going on here? Do you know, what's happening here? There was so much going on, you know?
Penny, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. When I was over there, right, and you know me, mate, I'm about peace, love, kindness, empathy. We are all the same people. We are life experience itself in these bodies. We are all the same. Me making war on my brother is the most stupid fucking concept, right? It just shows you're brainwashed by the bloody TV, right? And the big controllers. When I saw Jerry Adams and Martin McGuinness, you know, rest in peace, entering the peace process, and I'm just going to tell you now what I was told when I was in, but I'm not saying this is true, but like Martin apparently was in charge of all the drugs in Northern Ireland, right? Which is ironic because the lRA would kneecap people if they were caught with drugs, but that's another thing. I saw them entering the peace process, and I thought, what is going on here? Have they got to the end of the tether with, I don't want to say the T word, but you know, the rebellionism, the blowing up? They've realized that can only go so far, and they've got to go through political means now. Or is there something I don't understand here? Because I would have said there would never have been peace over there. Not simply for the reason you've got this island and one little part of it is controlled by another country. I'm not making judgment on that. Don't fucking judge me on that, friends. You know, I'm not saying anything here. What I'm saying is looking at it from an outside perspective, you got this island, a very proud island with an incredible history. And I appreciate Protestants make up that incredible history. And that is why I think this conversation is so valid. so valid going forward. But I would never have said there would have been peace. And never. When the peace process, the Good Friday come, I'm like, fucking bullshit. The hatred I saw there. Pat McGee's son, a prime example of someone so young. Like my little boy, just so full of bitterness. There was no like, mate, your dad just like blew up the Conservative Party. There's people, I don't know what the death toll would be. Was it Norman Tebbit was in a fucking wheelchair for a while and all this kind of shit? Like, do you not? Obviously, I'm not going to have this conversation with a kid, but the kind of thing is there, like, do the people that have indoctrinated you realize this is not the best way to behave? What I'm getting at, Kenny, is like, I'm all for peace. I have no gripe whatsoever with the people that fired AK-47 rounds at me, and they fired 9 of them. They also launched mortar bombs at me while I was asleep. So quite good fun, actually, but I probably shouldn't say that,
Yeah, get on your bunk.
because nobody got hurt except they actually knocked a kid off his bicycle.
Yeah.
Right? I got sniped at in the countryside up there, where the countryside is in Belfast, but a bullet like whizzed past my. Do I have any animosity? No, because we got to love all people. We got to go forward with one humanity, with life experience in itself. It's nonsense. It's nonsense to have anger and bitterness towards anyone. It just doesn't achieve anything.
Yeah, you can see on the video where the guy actually says, I mean, there's 2 of them. One guy wouldn't have been out without the Good Friday Agreement. I mean, he was he'd been in jail twice. He got arrested first in the early 70s, got released 83, and by 86 he was in, and he got released. And he says that they all work together, that community group on Falls Road and that, the ex-prisoners, they get together with the other side, if you want, and they discuss as a community what's going on. So it's very community organised. So there's a lot of stuff you don't see that's happening now. Yeah, and that's like I said, there's not a lot of, there's the odd dickhead, you know what I mean? They do try and reel them in, if you know what I mean, because they don't want to go back to that. I mean, Christ, I went to Derry there, and it was like, I'm going up the high street and everything, going in pubs, having a drink, and then, chatting to people and what have you. And not a problem. You wouldn't know it went on. Fort George is gone. Borlaug Barracks, they have a big peace bridge going over there now, and it's a cafe.
Sorry, Ken. My question is, like, how can these boys and girls let it go? This still is the fact remains that a part of that island, what they call the United Counties, is controlled by another entity. And I'm just going to say it again so we can delete all the dickheads in the comments that want to keep like making war, which we don't. How have they come to, peace of heart about that? Or are we awaiting the next wave?
I mean, I can't say on anything what I got told on the slide down there. I know stuff I can't say. Do you know what I mean? Because that's why we didn't film it. I can say off camera to you what goes on. You know what I mean? But I don't want the channel taken down. If I say something here, mate, it'll just get ripped. But they say that some can't forgive, but they can understand why. They were doing it a bit like Pat and Joe. They get together and people are like, why are they, what's going on? But she can forgive. A lot of people can't forgive. You know what I mean? And they haven't got to that, like you said, that level of enlightenment where, yes, that shit went on, but why did it go on? And they can't understand, you've got to move on for your kids' sake, for Christ's sake. Do you want them to go through that? Do you want your grandchildren to go through that? Do you want your grandchildren to be stopped and fucking searched and whatever every day, or have the bloody squaddies back on the streets fucking stopping you in the bloody street? Do you want to go back to that? Do you know what I mean? I think that when you see it now, I don't think it'll go back to that. Not now. Bloody hell, so much changed. Yeah, so much changed. Belfast and Derry and that totally revamped it. Revitalized the whole place. It's nice. You have some nice nights out. some brilliant nightclubs, lovely restaurants. You know, not a. It's kind of weird when you go back after being away for so long. It's like, wow, do you know what I mean? Wow. Well, we're going in this pub, and it's you know, a lot of people from my regiment were turning around and saying, "Do you know where you are?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm having a pint with him, by the way." What? And they couldn't get it in their head what I was doing. Do you know what I mean? They were like, "How come you're there and doing that?"
Kenny, is we had a Belfast reunion. It was a couple of years ago now, before all this fucking Scovy-Dovey bullshit, right? You know, I'm rocking up there with my enlightened mindset. You know, I'm a free person. I think what the fuck I want when I want, because all I think is love. That's it. I love, you know. And I'm chatting to this guy, and oh my God, he's like literally still living there back in 1988, 89 rather. He's still living there.
Yeah, these fucking days and these fucking days. I'm like, oh, dude, fucking give it up.
Yeah. Do you want to live like that for the rest of your life? Do you want to live that twisted shit in your head? Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm going to relive this all the time. I know you get post-traumatic and stuff about it, but it can't take over your life. Do you know what I mean? You can't look back and say, well, God, the bastards of this, that, and the other. Think of the kids, man. We'll be long gone. Do you know what I mean? And them children are going to be there, you know?
Kenny, but I think you and I will both agree on this. Had we lived there, we'd have been scrapping like fuck, wouldn't we?
I got that deleted off my post, by the way. At the end of it, I do a write-up to, how was it for you? And I said at the end of it, I said, Jesus Christ. I said, if I was there, I'd have done exactly the bloody same. Because you don't know the crap they went through. You just go there for a 6-month tour and come home and everything's cushy, and you go away and you go on R&R, and you know, you go away on your nice tours to Kenya and Belize and have the odd. I mean, back in our day, you know, it was just Ireland, wasn't it? It was just Northern Ireland, and you have your 6 months and that's it, and then maybe do another tour in your career or something, and that was you know. But them guys day in day out living like that. Imagine your community, imagine your children getting stopped going to school. You know, I mean, crying their eyes out. You know, coming back. You know, seeing troops on the bloody. You know, going in your house at 4 o'clock in the bloody morning for ratcheting through your bloody personal belongings. Yeah, you've got to leave that shit behind, man. You've got to leave that shit. And that's what we did. We reached out to find out why they did it and what we were conditioned to do. Do you know what I mean? Because we were young lads, like I said, we were young lads conditioned to do this, and we didn't have a clue what we were doing. We were just getting told what to do. Yeah, if we do this, you act in this way, you act in that way. Yeah.
Penny, let's come on to another thing then, because I completely understand now there'll be people watching this that are upset as fuck.
Yeah, they would.
I remember when I podcasted, was it Spud, isn't it? Veterans for Peace. Spud, is it Spud?
Spike.
Sorry. Spike, bless him. Very lovely man, you know?
Yeah.
And I podcast Spike, and fuck me, some guy popped in the comment section of the video going, right, Chris Rule, I'm reporting you to the Royal Marines, right? You are a traitor.
Lovely.
And I didn't like to point out to the guy, no, Royal Marines are fucking legends, mate. We do what the fuck we want, when we want, so long as it's the right thing, you know?
Yeah.
And an unwritten law in the Royal Marines is the children always come first, whether that's Catholic, Protestant, who gives a shit, right? That's what makes a real man, not your Hollywood view of what you think the British military is. You and I are on a different level, Kenny. You know, our consciousness vibrates at a higher in a higher dimension than most people. And I get it. Like, you don't watch the news. I haven't watched the news for like 20 years.
Yeah, I haven't watched the telly in a long time.
Yeah. Because we understand it's fiction, you know, it's a version of the truth designed to keep the people in slavery and to keep them angry about shit that happened like 40 fucking years ago. Or
hence why it's called television and you're programmed. Yeah.
I think a lot of veterans live in their identity of like, I was 18 and I got this colored hat on my head or this medal, and that is who I am. Yeah. And don't you fucking dare tell me that I'm not like this. Whereas you and I are like, fuck all that shit. That's like in the past. I mean, don't get me wrong. Kenny, don't, friends at home, don't, no,
we're not dissing
I'm very proud, very, very proud to have passed out as a Royal Marines commander. It's like probably the biggest thing to be accepted into training was like, I can tell you now, it's like the biggest thing in my life. And it's still, and it will, I shouldn't say this, but even more so than when my son was born, because that is just yada, yada, yada. But to be accepted into the Royal Marines, oh my Jesus Christ, man. It put me from like a loser to a god. So we're not here to slag anyone off, folks. What I'm saying is, you got to leave that identity behind because it's no longer you.
No, it's like I've got no disrespect for my battalion at all. I've had some good times in my battalion, they've been good to me. Yes, we went through some rough times, but that was part of what we did. You know what I mean? At that age, and I was there all through my 20s, and at 53, 54-year-old, you look back and you think, yeah, I had some good times. I also had some dark times, and they still play on you. But you are what you are. You're where you are. Like I say, I've got no disrespect, for anybody that served in Northern Ireland. I mean, at that time, it was what it was. You know what I mean? But move on, for Christ's sake, move on. Where are we going in life? You know what I mean? Where are we going with this? This is hey, if you don't get it now, you won't. You know what I mean? It's like world events at the minute. It's clown planet, mate.
You threw your medals down the cenotaph. I got mine and I flicked it into my son's bedroom, and I said, "Son, there you go. Just play with that." And neither of us know where it is, right?
Yeah, never worn them, mate. Never worn them.
I couldn't wear it. I could not wear a war trinket in and look myself in the mirror. It's a bullshit. There's an elite up there, Kenny, that are controlling everything. They're controlling everything. They're preventing people from attaining enlightenment, from attaining true beauty and true peace in life. And one of their big ways of doing it is through war and conflict, and keeping people thinking that there's an enemy out there. There is no enemy. The only enemy is ourselves. Does that make sense?
We have nothing to fear but fear itself. That's the thing. But yeah, show the videos of me with my underpants and all that. That's the sort of thing. You just take the piss out of it. Do you know what I mean? Start inverting it back at them. Do you know what I mean? Throwing it back at them.
Ken, just one last thing before we finish. I just want to say to anyone viewing, like, I really hope you've enjoyed this podcast. I really have. I think these are the conversations that need to be had. If there's anybody out there that was a member of a Republican group, get in contact. I'd love to chat with you. This is about going forward for the next generation. Understanding conflict is it's never going to be the way. And I think Kenny and I have both shown we hold no
malice to anyone,
malice in any way whatsoever, because we love our kids, and we don't want them to live in that fucking fiasco that just suits certain politicians and certain corporations, whatever it might be. So please get in touch, come on the podcast, and let's chat. And that said, Kenny, absolute legend, mate. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
You're more than welcome, mate. I mean, you're the legend. Do you know what I mean? You're pushing it, mate. You're pushing it. You're getting there.
Well,
mate.
I am. Yeah, I am. I'm actually a massive legend. Thank you. No,
it's
mate.
all it's all for the kids. It's all for the kids, mate. I mean, it's number one. And like I say, if ex-soldiers that are watching, soldiers that are watching, it ain't about you. It's about your family and your children first. They are number one. Number two is your job. At the end of the day, it's a job. All right, go and get another job. Yeah, what you're scared of? You're scared of this army pension, me this or the other. What about your kids? In 10 years' time, when they've got a microchip in their hand and they're being enslaved to this WEF crap, what are you going to say then? What did you do, Dad? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Too late.
There's two kinds of people in the world: those that have fucking grown a pair of balls,
I know.
and those that haven't. And
I think it's
you only get one go at history. In this set of molecules, you get one go at history. What do you want to be remembered as? The gutless the gutless coward that went along with all the bullshit because I kept my job and I could do my shopping insane, or the fucking legends that were like, fuck you, fuck this, that's a load of bullshit. I ain't doing it. Kenny, you're a legend. Friends at home, hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. If you can like and subscribe, get in contact if you think you can add to this conversation. Much love. Thank you.